can go.
Okay, so this is an updated version of the Infinity Athletics hairstyle for the 2015-2016 cheer season. It seems that Erica does not want a reverse braid anymore. She wants a regular braid into the high pony. Along with showing you guys how to do that and the best way to do it, I'm going to go over a few of the problems people are having. Things like getting the bow to stay upright on the head when once they get everything done and they hook their bow in, they're flopping backward and they kind of look like they're going to take flight. I'll explain kind of how to fix that. A few suggestions on how to get everything to stay really well, and how to kind of fix if your daughter has really thick hair and you're having trouble getting the ponytail in and getting everything smooth. I'll go a little more in depth on how to do all of that stuff since the braid's a little more basic this time, and hopefully we can solve a few of the problems people are having. Okay, so we're still going to the right, so the hair should be braided across towards the athlete's right hand with a high pony right behind it. But instead of being an inside-out braid, it's going to be a regular French braid, which will hopefully be a bit easier for everybody. Okay, so we're going to section out the hair. Go about halfway back. You want to have enough hair to make a thick braid, but you don't want to be so far back that it sets their ponytail back, because their ponytail needs to be right up on top of their head. So only go about halfway, section that and pull the hair forward. Leave some on the sides so that you can angle backwards when you braid, just like we did on the last video. Grab the rest of this and just throw it in a sloppy pony so that it's out of your way and you can just focus on the front. Okay. Hey, stop messing, girl. Alright, so I know a lot of people are having trouble with the hair being slippery in the front and the braid not being thick enough. Peyton doesn't have that problem. She's got really thick hair, but if your child has thinner hair, you can do two things. You can either use a dry shampoo sprayed in at the roots, will give the hair more stick so that it doesn't slide out. Or there's ones that are like texturizing sprays, and those will do the same thing. They're basically just a really fine powder spray that will just kind of collect on the hair and give it a little more root for them to stay tight when you braid it. So if you need that, get that in. You would kind of get it in at the base of their hair. Don't do a ton because it will get crazy. If your child has dark hair, dry shampoos will come out white. So you just rub it in and that goes away. Okay, so once you've done all that, you're going to want to put some hairspray on the front of the hair and comb back all the fine little baby hairs that everybody has in the front so that you have a nice smooth braid without extra hairs coming out. And then we'll start braiding. And now we're doing just plain old standard French braid. Section into 3. Cross it back and forth a couple times to give yourself a base. And then start picking up the hair. Again, just like before, make sure you smooth the hair as you pick it up so that that braid stays nice and flat against their head. And you want to hit your braid right in the middle. You don't want to pull it all the way back here. You don't want it to be real close to the front. You want it right down the middle. Okay, so right about the time you get to their natural part line, you want to start heading to the back. So at that point, you would just grab a small bit of hair from the back, and you would grab a nice long strip from the front so that you don't actually turn the corner, because a lot of people are braiding that and turning the corner, and then when they pull the hair up, they have kind of a lump here on the side that they're not liking. Because you don't want to braid around the corner, you just want to start angling the braid backward. So you take a little bit from the back and a whole lot from the front. So it kind of, instead of turning the corner, it's just making this gradual curve towards the back. On my last one, I usually pick up nothing from this side. I just bring the side over and I pick up a nice big line from the front side. So now I've gone from going straight towards her ear to heading towards the back of her head. Okay, so then like before, we just braid it out a long enough distance that it would be into the ponytail. And we stick an elastic in it for a holding spot. Okay, if your daughter doesn't have real thick hair, if it's not a problem, from here you would just release this crazy messy pony that you made, start smoothing everything out, and bringing it into a ponytail up at the top. If you have a child who has really thick hair, or if you have one whose hair is shorter, you can always have them at this point bring their head down, and you can braid their hair up the back until you get to the top and then make a ponytail. That will keep all the little hairs in. If you have one that's thicker, like Peyton's hair is really thick, and I can't just grab a pony, not to mention that the weight of that would pull any elastics out. So what I do is just grab just the sides like you were going to do some up and some down. I smooth the hair out, and I just put this front part of her hair into a ponytail with the braid. So I leave all of this back stuff down and just kind of leave it alone for now. Just let it be down here. And I worry about concentrating on getting this front to look exactly like I want it to look. It's a lot easier. You only have to worry about half the amount of hair. So I get this smoothed out. I usually pop this braid out so that it lays on top, but we get all this nice and smooth and pulled up where we want it. We make sure our pony's right on the top of the head like we want it. Once we get there, just grab that braid and pull it in. And at that point, I go ahead and take hair ties, make sure it's centered on their head, and I just put this part up. I leave all the rest of that hair down. Okay. So if you have a kid that has a bob, then you would just stop here. This bob stuff would stay down, and you would put the top up. But by doing it this way, I can make sure all of this is nice and secure and smooth and not have to deal with all the hair at one time. So at this point, I just pop out this braid, because we don't need that anymore. Let that loose. And then I have her just kind of flip her head down. I take a brush, and now I can comb all this, and I can spray it, and I can get the little wispies, because this is all I'm dealing with is half her hair, which makes everything a whole lot easier. Put a little spray on the back, it gets everything, all these little wispies in the back pulled tight. Everything's nice and smooth. You don't have to worry about all the bumps. So I take this, take a hair tie, not that one, and stick that into a pony right behind the first pony. So now obviously we have two ponies, which is not what you want. So we need to bring them both together. So I take the two ponies, grab two elastics, and go around it again. Best way to do it is to get underneath the first two hair ties, because that will make everything pull really tight. That way their hair is nice and tight and secure. Pains I can only go around twice because otherwise she'll bust the elastics, but if you can get around 3 times, that's better. Okay, now to address some of the issues that people are having. One, we're having a lot of problems with ponies sliding. The best way to stop that is to get the grippy elastics. They're called no slip grip, and they are literally rubber. They're not coated rubber bands. They are a rubber piece on their own. If you can't find those, these work good too, and they're the no slip grip also, but what they have is just a piece of rubber that runs inside, because it's that rubber that will grab the hair and stop everything from moving. So one of those two options will work the best for keeping this from starting to slide upward when your kid's tumbling and jumping and stunting and doing whatever. If you get those kind of elastics, they'll stay. They don't slide up the hair as easy. Problem number 2 that everybody's having is the bow flopping down and coming up and looking like you're flying. And all of that bow popping up is not necessarily how it's being hooked in. It's what the ponytail behind it is like. At this point, I've used 2 ponytail holders on the front, 1 ponytail holder on the back, and 2 around the base of them. So at this point, I have 2, 4, 5 rubber bands in her hair. And that's not all I would use. In order to keep her hair, her bow sitting up, you want to have an I Dream of Jeannie crazy amount of elastic hair tie behind it. So at this point, I take another 2 and wrap them around up top of it, so that literally there is a 1-inch mess of hair ties. That is what you're going to anchor the bow to. I mean, look at how high her hair sits up without me doing anything to it. No ratting, anything. That's that base that when you put a bow against it, the bow sits upright. It can't flop backwards, not without her head flopping backward. That's how you get the bow to sit upright. So if you get a good base of the sticky hair ties in here, the bow will sit up. It doesn't really even matter how you hook it in, how the teen moms, or if you have the zip ties, go about hooking them. And it doesn't matter how many zip ties go in the hair. It's the base behind it that matters. So when you want to put the hair tie, the zip tie through, get it at the base of the bow, set it flat against your child's head, hook the zip tie through one of the elastics so that there's no way the bow is going to slide up off of the athlete's head, and pull the zip tie just slightly taut. So at this point, there's a lot of give to this. At that point, you stick it underneath the hair ties at the very base of their hair so that the hair ties sit up on top of it, and then pull the zip tie as tight as you can get it. That way the bow sits straight up and out, which is what we want. Not a bow that's sliding up off their head, but straight up. I have a ton of colors in here. All black is better, but Okay, so once their bow is in there like that, that's one zip tie on a Passion very heavy bow, and it's sitting straight up. At that point, we make sure it's pulled tight and cut the zip tie off. So then if you want to put some fullness and some tease in the hair, the best thing to get is a teasing comb that looks like this. You can get them at any drugstore or at Sally's Beauty. And you take the hair in small pieces, put a little hairspray at the base. You don't even need to worry about the top of it. And you pull downward, essentially making a big snarly mess at the roots. See, like, I mean, that's a snarly mess. It will stand up. Spread it out and move to the next. And that's all you do. You just keep going through. And kids with real thin hair, this will give them some size to the ponytail that sits behind, because the nice hair will go over the top of this. So what's underneath it needs to be the stuff that gives the volume. So you just a couple pulls front and back to give yourself a good bit of teasing. You just want to keep going and spreading it out so that it fills the whole back behind the bow. And on the average kid, we'd be pretty much at the end of their hair. On either of my other daughters, we'd be at the end of the hair. Okay, we'll do one more. Okay, so you want to just do the underneath bit and leave this top spray of hair to just set over the top so that it's all nice and smooth and you don't see the ratting and you don't see the snarls. You see a nice pretty base of hair. Put a little coating of hairspray. Erica does not want a ton of tease, so that gives it a nice smooth top. And just volume so that that hair comes up with the bow. Okay, bow sitting up nice and straight. Our braid comes across to the right side. So hopefully that covers some of the problems that people are having when they're doing their hair. Some of the problems moms are running into doing it. So I hope it helps.